I thought to myself that he named me and said it had nothing to do with him. But the next moment, the devil kicked me again. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. In this year, how many tricks you have? The girl next to me was about to ask her father, but her father told her not to interfere. The devil came to his senses at this time. He said to the uncle again, "Who told them that the devil was dead?" But the uncle was full of doubts. Because Elizabeth disappeared for 500 years, which is a well-known fact. And according to the literature, the demon lord was killed by the legendary hero, and it is said that the battle lasted for a month. In the end, the hero sacrificed himself, and the devil died together. Hearing this, I was shocked. Elizabeth had only lived for a year. 500 years had passed outside, but the devil was filled with murderous intent. Instantly, the father and daughter were pulled into the bloody consciousness by the devil. And under their feet, the accumulated bones of the defeated minions of the devil. The two were immediately stunned by the scene. The devil also said firmly at this time, "This rumor is false." The father and daughter looked at the murderous eyes and nodded in agreement. And I also told them at this time that I was the legendary hero. Hearing this, the two were so scared that they peed their diapers. Then I pointed to the demon king beside me. He was the Elizabeth they mentioned. The father and daughter spat out another mouthful of phlegm. What kind of ridiculous plot is this? But the demon lord looked displeased at this time, because at this moment I was showing off his glorious deeds in his eyes. He slammed his hand on the table, and then suddenly turned and left, because at this moment he felt that I was just these two weak humans coming back to humiliate him. The devil then slammed the door shut. Even the walls were cracked. And at this time, the uncle said tremblingly, "Mr. Lepping, what are your plans next?" I was also at a loss for words. I said, "Let's calm down first." Late at night, the father and daughter were still whispering about what happened during the day. Unexpectedly, the truth 500 years ago was the devil and the hero fell in love with each other, so he gave up the whole world. But his father told him not to talk about it casually, otherwise we might all die here. But before the words were finished, a familiar voice came again, saying it was so late. "Why haven't you slept yet?" The girl was already trembling with fear. But I suddenly greeted him with a poker face. "If you haven't slept so late, why don't you play cards?" The uncle was immediately shocked. Could it be that the hero is testing us? The three of them came to the hall and sat down slowly, and I patiently explained the rules of poker to them. The girl couldn't help thinking about it. Could it be as her father said? This is Mr. Lepping's test. At this moment, I decided to start the game. Ready to deal cards. Hearing this, the girl, she couldn't help swallowing nervously and asked the name of the game. And she looked at the cards on the table, seemed to exude an ominous aura. But I was stunned when I heard this, because if it was called landlords, people in this world might not understand it. But luckily, a flash of inspiration came to me. I immediately decided to call the game Dragon Slayer. However, the father and daughter were almost scared to pee. Even the big devil above their heads The great demon king who used the invisibility technique was very puzzled about this guy's mind. Why he has so many tricks, which is really puzzling. I explained to them again. The general idea is that two heroes need to work together to defeat the dragon, and we would decide whether to be heroes, to decide whether to be a hero or a nightmare. The father and daughter suddenly understood. It seems that it is indeed a test for themselves. At this time, in their eyes, was a terrifying existence. And I started dealing the cards at this time. I picked up the playing cards in my hand and urged them to reveal their cards quickly. Eliav trembled and reached out for the playing cards. But at the moment of contact, they seemed to be taken to another mysterious world. The uncle was also shocked by what he saw. The hero's strength is really terrifying. But at this moment, Eliav suddenly supported himself on the ground, sweat streaming down his face, because the moment he touched the poker, as if he had lost all his magic. And the uncle also comforted him at this time. The rest is up to him. At this time, I forgot that, although I didn't have many big cards in my hand. But they were quite smooth, so I could still have a try. So I immediately asked if they wanted to be the dragon. But even though the father and daughter held 2 or 3 bombs, they still shook their heads to refuse. So I immediately decided to take the landlord. But looking at the 3 cards that were turned over were not useful to me. I couldn't help but look frustrated. I'm afraid I'm doomed to lose with this hand. But when the father and daughter saw my unhappy face, they trembled all over. Could it be that Mr. Leping was not satisfied with our performance? I might lose my life. Fortunately, I was kind and friendly. I played the 8 in my hand. The uncle couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. But just as he was about to play the card, he suddenly felt that the poker in his hand contained great energy. It turned out that every time he played a card, he had to pay with his vitality. With the uncle throwing the cards out of his hand, one of his fingers also lost its vitality in an instant. And Ilafu looked at the scene in front of him, couldn't help but worry. The uncle endured the pain in his hand and told him not to worry. The girl could only continue helplessly. But looking at the bad cards in my hand, I couldn't help thinking. Because the single card in hand was too small, so I decided to pass. I'll pass first. But the uncle looked astonished when he heard this and sat on the ground. After confirming my affirmative answer again, the uncle had to continue. Mr. Leping is deliberately making me play cards to consume my vitality. But now he had to bite the bullet and continue. So he directly played the dragon in his hand. Da Chao, because when he explained the rules just now, told him that this combination was called Fei Long. However, the price of his card was also huge. One of his dice also lost its vitality. With the poker falling, a prehistoric dragon also rose into the air in an instant and directly spat out atomic breath towards me. Seeing this scene, the father and daughter were directly stunned. Oh no, it's over. I just attacked the brave man. I'm doomed now. The scene was also seen by the Demon King. It seems that this game is not simple. But at this moment, I just looked at the poker in my hand and thought, because I couldn't see the magic that happened. The bad cards in my hand were useless. I had no choice but to ask the uncle to continue. And the uncle also played the 3 of clubs at this time. With the girl rejecting me again, I immediately played the 10 in my hand. Seeing that I finally played, they both said they couldn't take it because their lives couldn't withstand the constant consumption. But at this moment, I smiled. I then played a straight. With the sound of the cards falling, and a gust of airwaves spread around. The next moment, a huge wave appeared in front of them. In an instant, and they were submerged in the rough waves. After a long time, the father and daughter finally came to their senses. Let me play the 3 with 2 in my hand. Instantly, a pair of ancient chariots appeared, shouting and charging towards them. The uncle was terrified by the scene in front of him, but still said he couldn't take it. But at this moment, Aleph looked at the poker in his hand. He decided to play it. His father was shocked because it would cost him a lot of vitality. But Aleph did not intend to back down. This time, he was going to protect the best father in the world. The moment the card was laid, over the heads of the father and daughter, an ancient chariot appeared above their heads, approaching me. Instantly, the 2 chariots were in a fight. But a moment later, my ancient chariot was killed by it. The uncle looked at his daughter anxiously, for fear that he would lose his vitality like him, would lose his vitality. To my surprise, Yelifu was unscathed. I thought they were getting carried away with the card game. I explained to them randomly, it's right to break up your cards at the right time. It's right to protect your teammates. But the most important thing is to have determination. Hearing this, the uncle looked at his lost finger thoughtfully. Could it be that Lord Lapping was hinting at something? But at this moment, my face became gloomy. But it's too late for you now. Hearing this, the father and daughter were suddenly restless. Could it be that they were really going to die here? Even the Demon King felt something was wrong. I felt an ominous aura was just around the corner. When everyone was confused, I threw the King of Hearts in my hand. Instantly, the father and daughter, they were pulled back into that terrifying consciousness. In the consciousness of the father and daughter, a huge crack appeared directly. Then, a huge clown emerged from it. The father and daughter were directly scared to the ground. The Demon King was even more shocked, because the clown in the wound was a 3-star demon god like himself. The clown demon sensed the Demon King. He turned around and looked at Elizabeth, sneaking around and peeking at something, and then said with a playful face, "Be careful. My knife doesn't have eyes. I'll kill you." Seeing this, Elizabeth, although she said she wasn't scared, but her body honestly raised her hand to say no. Unexpectedly, she has been humble these days. Only barely reached the 3-star demon level by relying on Leping's feeding. But he summoned it casually. Seeing this, the father and daughter both realized that they were powerless, and both said their last words. Then the uncle suddenly coughed violently, and blood spewed from his mouth. And his playing cards also fell on the table. Thinking that his old disease had relapsed, I hurriedly asked. Suddenly, I saw the dropped playing cards. It turned out that the uncle could have won long ago, just letting me win, just playing with me. I just thought I was very good. In fact, I might have disturbed their rest. I quickly collected the playing cards on the table. The clown demon above my head let out a scream and then disappeared. After hurriedly saying goodbye to the father and daughter and turned to leave, the father and daughter who felt like they were alive again. They were directly scared into insanity. This legendary hero is really unpredictable. But when he saw two weak humans and the demon king who was intact, he suddenly realized it seems that Leping playing cards is fake, and using it to teach me a lesson is the real purpose.